Fine, sir. I'm a freshman CS major here at school, and I'd like a job at website.com, please. Great. Do you have a resume? Sure do. Here you go. Thanks. Did you, make this by hand? No, that'd be silly, right? Yeah. Did you hand write that entire stack of resumes? No. Yeah, it doesn't look like you have any relevant experience. No, but see, I'm a freshman, so I don't have any relevant experience, but I was hoping you could help me with that because it says on your name tag to ask you about internships. Yeah, our internship actually requires at least 1 year of full-time work experience. But how am I supposed to get job experience if even internships require previous job experience? No idea. I'm actually a student here myself. I'm just dressed like this to see if I can convince website.com that I actually work there. I made a fake name tag and everything. Hey, what are you doing here? Oh, hey, don't you remember me? Mark? It's me, Jerry, from work. Remember that shared experience we both had? Oh yeah, so how about have you on the team? See you around, coworker. Where were we? What? Hello, and welcome back to Procrastinating Something More Important. I'm Jarvis. So an important part of applying for a job is the resume. I mean, it's far less important once you're in industry, but we can all agree that it's basically a necessity to have one when you're in college. But whenever you see a resume or get resume advice, you always get a fully formed example. Like this is the first Google image result for the word resume. John, cool experience you got there, but you've also been in industry for 13 years. He's actually a CS major. Wow. I was not expecting that, but we never get to see John's resume when he was a sophomore or a freshman trying to find his place in the industry. So I figured now that I've spent a few years in industry and have spent some time both as a student and a recruiter and have reviewed probably over hundreds of resumes, I can show you my resumes from freshman year leading up to getting a full-time job and make fun of myself along the way. Quick disclaimer is to say that my resume isn't even that good, but I think it would be helpful to go through the evolution of a real resume that got me real interviews and real jobs. First things first, my freshman year of college. Whew. So I actually had to take this required career development class where they made us make a resume for homework and take it to the career fair. So even my first semester of my freshman year, I had a resume and I put it in front of a recruiter's face and looked him in the eye and asked for a job, even though I knew that I had none of the required experience. This is basically the resume of a high school senior. So at a glance, it doesn't look that bad, but let us examine further. You can see I have 2 physical addresses listed on the resume. Like, why do we even include physical addresses on resumes in the first place? It's 2018. I mean, it was 2010, but still, it's not like we didn't have email or phones. It can't be. We've gotta hire this guy pronto. How do we get in touch with him? The line is busy. Damn. I'm getting Miller Damon. I know what to do. Yeah, no, I would love to accept your offer, other company. No. Okay, so now we have the objective section, and if you don't know what an objective is, I didn't. They are short statements that describe exactly what you want. While your overarching goal, for example, may be to get a job, your resume statement may state that you want a job as a nurse. So I didn't say that I wanted a job as a nurse. What I did say, to acquire a summer 2010 co-op position related to computer science. You know, just related to computer science, like maybe a cousin of computer science or even a step sibling, which could basically be read as objective. Hi, hello job, please, I want one. Objective, to not have to write one of these ever again. Objective, gimme, gimme, gimme. Now here's the part of the resume, aka the whole thing, where I realize I don't have any relevant experience, so I try to stretch out a bunch of unrelated information as far as I can. Just about the only bit of relevant information here is that I'm majoring in computer science. I haven't taken any meaningful classes. I don't even have a GPA yet. Skills. You know when your skills are represented by 4 bulleted sentences, you're in for a bad time. It starts with the age-old classic, proficient in Microsoft Office. I technically did make this resume in Microsoft Word, which does declare some proficiency. I'm literate in Python and familiar with basic programming concepts, aka I've been told that programming does indeed have concepts. Here's a fun one. Familiar with audio editing for conversational and radio purposes. So, I mean, I can't write any code for you, but if you're trying to start a podcast, I got you. Which reminds me, I do actually still have a podcast. It's called Sad Boys. It's a comedy podcast about feelings. We've had guests like Simone Yatch, Drew Scanlon, the Blinking White Guy, Mayuko, Lauren Shippen, and many more, available where podcasts are sold. Link in the description down below. Always be selling. Also, podcasts aren't sold. It's a free podcast. That was a joke. Activities and interests, aka, oh, am I still writing this resume? Well, here's a list of clubs I joined in my first week of college. For those following along at home, this resume has this much relevant information on it, so it's basically a business card, but I digress. We have our final section, additional information. On the bright side, we made it past the halfway point of the page, so I'm gonna chalk that one up as a win. Okay, all right, this is kind of nice. This is cute. Okay, fine. People wonder if you should like put this kind of stuff on your resume, and I think it shows that you're a person outside of your studies, and that's valuable. Just don't spend like too much of your space on it. I'm a fan. Honestly, I'm really glad that they made us make these resumes. My freshman resume didn't have that many redeeming qualities, but I took this with me to the career fair, and I had to look at recruiters with a straight face and ask them for a job, and that didn't go well, but it wasn't supposed to. Getting the experience of pitching yourself to recruiters is in and of itself a learned skill. The resume served as a conversation starter and helped me get comfortable with talking about myself. Now I do that on the internet with strangers for fun. Because YouTube, like this whole thing, these, like all of that. So wherever you are in your career, even if you're a freshman who hasn't even finished any of their classes yet, you can still make a resume, and it can help you think about presenting yourself in a professional context. The next semester, this resume got a bit better. Like I removed high school and had a bit more information to like fill it out with. I had a GPA at this point, but I chose not to show it because it was a 2.91, and I got advice that you shouldn't show your resume if it's below a 3.0. As a resume reviewer, I kind of assume the worst when people don't show their GPAs on their resumes, so I think it's better to just show it. I mean, as a student, because typically people like will remove their GPAs from their resumes after they've been in industry for a bit. Like, it's wild how this little number was the cause of so much stress and frustration for me, and it just doesn't end up mattering in the long run. And that's not to say that like the GPA doesn't matter at all. If you're going to grad school, it's obviously going to matter, but in the grand scheme of things, you can forget the grades that you got, and what's going to stick with you is like what you learned along the way. So I wouldn't stress so much about the GPA. A couple months later, I got an on-campus job. I had spent the winter break making an Android app with my friend. All it did was convert units of measurement, but it was an experience making something, and it went on my resume, and it actually ended up getting me my first internship as an Android developer. And we made a Twitter where we called ourselves the App to Dudes. We made a blog spot. Remember Blogspot? The first post of it, which obviously is from me, says, "Other kids might spend their winter breaks differently. Not us. Enter Russell and Jarvis, two totally regular guys who spend their free time doing constructive stuff. Both are freshmen in college, Russell at Carnegie Mellon and Jarvis at Georgia Tech, and are pretty enthusiastic about programming." Oh, to be a kid again. I'm gonna break from third person now, but we can pretend I did too. What? I mean, we're calling us the Aptitudes. Sorry about that. I have an affinity for puns. Still true. No one's ever going to read this blog, so I really have no idea why I'm writing it. Joke's on you, Jarvis from 2011. I just made YouTube read the blog. Perhaps in the future we'll gain some sort of pseudo-popularity that will retroactively validate the existence of this blog. It's okay, man. It's okay. You don't need popularity to validate your existence. I want to go back and tell 18-year-old Jarvis that. Honestly, it's like so cool to see this again. And if you want to go make something, just go do it, because there's more tools than ever to do that. Okay, so I moved up the experience section. I learned that's a mental shortcut that a lot of companies take. Like, people are only spending a couple of seconds looking at your resume, so you want all of the most important information at the top that is going to be hit at a glance. If it's not clear by now, a resume is essentially a product that you can run experiments on with the information that you're presenting and how you're presenting it. It's something I recommend doing if that's the kind of thing you're into. I'm someone who's always trying to like make things better. I could see results from making changes to my resume. So think of it like a product, and run experiments, get feedback, that kind of thing. Here we have a slight visual redesign and the addition of a project section that's separate from my skills section. It only includes a small personal project and 2 school projects that were like really novel. Brief aside on this, if school projects are all you got, put them in your resume, but preferably if they were open-ended and not like an assignment that everybody got, because the recruiter's gonna be reading resumes and seeing the same projects over and over, and it's gonna make you seem way less interesting. Like, how can you stand out if everyone has like the same projects on their resume, right? That kind of thing. So this resume may not look like much, but it's the one during my sophomore year that got me pretty high profile interviews, like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, like all of the main ones. And I think it's because I had a decent GPA. I had been in my internship part-time for a good 6 months. And I'd started a job as a teaching assistant, a TA for a Java class, Intro to Object-Oriented Programming. If you like helping people and you have the opportunity to be an undergraduate teaching assistant, I strongly recommend it. It's a really fulfilling job, and employers tend to like TAs because it's a job where they have to have a firm understanding of fundamental topics. It's still the resume of someone who's only been in school for a year, but it was the 10th public version of my resume. And I think if it still looked like the first version, it would not have fared as well. Recruiters are often only looking at resumes for a few seconds. So if the most important information isn't summoned, even if it's in the resume, you could be at a disadvantage. This was actually the resume that Google ended up getting, and then I went and interned over there. And after I got back from that, I rebuilt my resume in LaTeX because I was a true nerd, and I put it under source control, and it still lives on GitHub. Pretty snazzy, right? I've since seen like a ton of resumes that use this specific LaTeX resume template, so now I kind of cringe when I look at my own resume. This has got some good stuff, like where I lie about my familiarity with Windows Phone 7. Rest in peace. Don't do that. What was that? That lie was for no one. Who is that gonna impress? And I still have 2 physical addresses on it. And this is the resume I sent to my current employer. Honestly, I don't love this resume, but it gets the job done. In college, I saw my resume as like a calling card that was supposed to entice you to hire me. And now I kind of see it as just like a log or record of events. Nowadays, like job things happen over like LinkedIn and referrals. So I haven't really even updated my resume recently, but for that time, it is important, and you're always going to be like dusting it off. So I think investing in the system of it when you're in college can make things easier down the road. My path isn't the only one, so if you can identify with pieces of it, that's great, and if you can't, that's okay too. You're probably doing fine. So that's about it for resumes. When I look at these 2 resumes side by side, on the left, I see a child with basically no relevant job experience. And on the right, I see a child with some relevant experience. So progress. It's all progress. So like this video, subscribe, leave a comment. I love you. No, the music is starting. I just remembered something really important. Whatever you do, don't